From Ch.2 News, on your side, Juneteenth, preserving the tradition.
Hello and welcome to our celebration of Juneteenth. We're coming to you today from the historic Michigan Street Baptist Church in Buffalo. The church was the site of an Underground Railroad station for runaway slaves more than 150 years ago. It was June 19th of 1865 when Union soldiers finally brought word of freedom to the people of Galveston, Texas, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Freedom delayed is still freedom nonetheless, at least under the laws of the time. We celebrate the event by telling the story, and the story is one of the African American experience, but it's also a story of the American experience of us all. In the next half hour, we'll tell you about the people who used freedom's new opportunities to ennoble and exalt the lives of their sisters and brothers. We show you the art they created and the music and dance they devised to make self-expression a reality. And we'll see how these pioneers used their freedoms of speech and press to finally speak for themselves. Let's begin now and go over to Channel 2's Claudine Ewing at Martin Luther King Park. Claudine?
Thanks, Rich. Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration of the ending of slavery. And today, Juneteenth gives African Americans a chance to celebrate their freedom and show their respect for other cultures.
Very happy to welcome everybody here to our first annual Juneteenth celebration in Buffalo and Western New York.
It was 1976 on Jefferson Avenue. The parade, the marching bands, drill teams, dancing in the streets, real barbecue. Today, the venue has changed. There are more vendors, some from out of town. African art and artifacts stand out.
It affords an opportunity for the community to see the best of not just Black Buffalo, but of Buffalo in general.
I want to be there just so I can represent what I'm trying to do.
And that's where respect for all comes into play. This year's Juneteenth committee faced a financial hit in wake of 9/11. Many sponsors were unable to participate, but 9/11 did something else for the African American community. For some, views changed about America.
Sometimes they don't feel that, America has really done a whole lot for them, but I think it made them appreciate the freedom that they have in the country.
Everyone is urged to come out and support this event. Check out the jewelry.
I've participated in Juneteenth a couple years ago, and I want to take my kids so they can see what it's about.
Party, barbecue.
Juneteenth 2002 promises to meet your expectations and some. It's a family affair for one and all.
We always attract many people from many different races to that converge right here on Martin Luther King Park.
Thanks, Claudine. It's all happening this weekend. Saturday's events run from 8 in the morning till 7 at night. One of the day's highlights is the Juneteenth Community Parade at noon. Now here's the route. It starts at Genesee and Moselle, proceeds down Genesee Street into Martin Luther King Jr. Park. Sunday's events begin at 10 a.m. and run through 7 p.m. Highlights include children's activities, family photo day, and book sharing. And don't forget Underground Railroad tours. The bus leaves from the corner of Fillmore and Best both days at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Ever since 9/11, none of us has to be reminded that buildings can be far more than just bricks and mortar and steel. They can be monuments to an ideal, to a person, to a people. So it is here in this Michigan Avenue neighborhood. Larry Hawkins is cleaning up the mess behind his property. A mess he caused by hiring a demolition contractor last March to tear down 2 of his buildings, including this one out front. The building was next to the historic Michigan Street Baptist Church.
History is good. I love my history. I love all our history. But the point of it is, it doesn't pay the bills. It does not do it.
A court order stopped the demolition, but a lot of the damage was done.
This was a neighborhood. It was a streetscape.
Preservation Coalition Director Tim Thielman says sometimes a neighborhood is more than just the sum of its buildings.
For one person, it's just a piece of real estate. It means nothing. But to another person or the community at large, it could mean a great deal.
Larry Hawkins' 1890s-era building, the Underground Railroad Church next door, the Jesse Nash House around the corner. Tour operator Kevin Cottrell brought these visitors from Florida to this historic neighborhood.
People come for real things. If there's nothing else left, you put up a museum and you try to maintain what's been preserved. But, you know, these are the living, breathing museums, these buildings. If these walls could talk to you, they would tell you a lot of things. You know, you go in a Nash house and you see all of those artifacts looking at you, and if the walls could talk.
If they could, they would take you back before the Urban League, before the NAACP, before most of us heard the word ecumenical. The Reverend Jesse Nash was friends with Adam Clayton Powell Sr. He knew W.E.B. Du Bois. This was the sermon he delivered at the funeral of Mary Talbert's sister-in-law. Mary Talbert delivered the eulogy at the funeral of Harriet Tubman. This is where Jesse Nash worked. These are the things he touched. Right around the corner from the building Larry Hawkins ordered torn down.
A lot of the blood, sweat, and tears in these buildings were us. We built these things, and this is why we're so passionate about preserving them.
That passion can be contagious. Larry Hawkins now is saving the bricks from his partially demolished building next to the church to reconstruct the front portion.
And at this point, we're getting rid of the 493, 495. Saving the front piece of 509 is going to make some kind of sense.
Some see damaged buildings, others see living monuments to the people who came before them. A universal human desire is to not be forgotten. This spot on the Niagara River in Broderick Park is one of several where runaway slaves crossed into Canada. Passing on to future generations the knowledge and the passion of their lives is one way we can honor their memory. Channel 2's Pete Gallivan has that part of the story.
It wasn't underground, and it wasn't really a railroad.
What y'all doing out in these woods?
But in the mid-1800s, the Underground Railroad laid the tracks to freedom for countless escaped slaves.
Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go.
Today, these students walk in those footsteps through reenactment, learning from the heroics of the past.
Knowing your history and where you come from, it gives you an idea and a sense of where you're going.
I escaped to Philadelphia, stayed there safely for a couple years, and I decided I'd go back and get my people. That's why they dubbed me Moses.
From Harriet Tubman to bounty hunters.
Stand! Stay still!
The railroad ran across the Northeast, but the Niagara frontier was the bottleneck. The gateway to the West, sure, but if you were on the run, it was an escape from shackles and a doorway to independence.
But I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving. We heard Moses coming.
And Western New York is covered with stops along the Underground Railroad, the hidden room beneath the barn on the old McClue farm in Newfane, Broderick Park along the Niagara River, Doug's Dive, which was downtown in the old commercial slip, and one of the most famous, the basement at the Michigan Street Baptist Church.
Now, fittingly, right across the street from this abolitionist landmark will soon stand the Mud Pies Children's Museum. Now, the area that I'm walking through right now, this will soon become the atrium, and within that building, a permanent attraction, an exhibit dedicated to the Underground Railroad.
The working title is it's a Home Free, which is a part of a child's game of hide and seek. And the metaphor there is children are all familiar with the game of hide and seek, but this one's for keeps.
The exhibit will include an astronomy component to show navigation, costumes for role-playing, artwork to display the secret message quilts used by slaves, and even a hiding hole.
We want to make sure that at an early age, kids understand not only the significance of this great escape and also the perils that involved. We also want to make sure that, that they understand Western New York's importance.
So today, as we call Buffalo the city of good neighbors, for many, that was never more true than in the days when the train of freedom ran the tracks of the Underground Railroad.
I told Satan, get thee behind me. Joy today is mine.
Don't that make you feel good?
Yeah.
Pete Gallivan, Channel 2 News.
Joy today is mine.
Tours of the Underground Railroad sites are available through a local company called Motherland Connections. And a ribbon cutting for the Mud Pies Museum is scheduled for sometime in the next year. Stay with us now for lots more here on our Juneteenth special.
To take away the black newspaper would be like taking away the civil rights movement.
Buffalo's black newspapers providing a voice to the community.
Well, she was with us for 8 years, 7 or 8 years. Although she wasn't born here, but just the same.
The Queen of Soul and the Queen City. Find out the connection.
We've all heard the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, some African Americans have made their mark by putting the print on the paper, and they've made a difference. Early in American history, African Americans were ignored in mainstream newspapers. Black newspapers were deliberately started to showcase their accomplishments and promote another point of view. Buffalo joined in almost a century ago. Fine print, published twice a month, is 32 years old. It's known for its pictures and bold headlines.
I'm a stickler on the front page, having that banner and a big banner explaining exactly my point of view for that particular situation.
Like this in-your-face headline.
Believe it, they did have those hard times. We did have to come from so far back to get to where we are now.
The granddaddy of all Buffalo's black newspapers is the Buffalo Criterion, now 75 years old. Started by the Merriweather family in the 20s, a struggle then and now, but a vehicle urging change.
Focus upon that part of American society which had not lived up to its promise with respect to the black citizenry.
Besides the pen, the camera captured events and people.
James Pitts without a bow tie. To take away the black newspaper would be like taking away the civil rights movement.
Frank Merriweather III stumbled upon provocative columns. These are the facts by Mark O'Reilly.
I spoke as I saw it.
Now 85 years old, O'Reilly's message over 50 years remains the same for everyone.
We need to come together, believe me, because there's many unhappy people out there with negative ideologies, and we have to confront that.
The Buffalo Criterion attempts to do just that.
But we tried to really dig in because we were close to the community and really bring that story with all of the T's crossed and all of the I's dotted.
Buffalo's black newspapers in their own right are forceful, powerful, giving a voice to a people once thought to be voiceless. The Challenger by far is one of the most popular African-American newspapers in Buffalo. With a readership of over 30,000, it hits the newsstands every Wednesday in Rochester and Buffalo. It certainly has a rich history. Speaking of history, Buffalo has some strong links to prominent individuals that you may not know about. We call them Buffalo's First. What do Aretha Franklin and the late Grover Washington Jr. have in common? We asked the author of Buffalo's Blacks, Talking Proud.
Well, she was with us the 8 years, 7 or 8 years, although she wasn't born here, but just the same.
Aretha sang in the choir at Friendship Baptist Church in Buffalo.
He was well known, but a lot of people didn't know he was from Buffalo.
Eva Knowles thought it was important to document notable blacks in Buffalo so their achievements wouldn't be ignored. She says for so long, blacks struggled to get ahead.
It was much easier now to get into things than it was when I came along.
Jimmy Lyons was Buffalo's first black disc jockey. Model Beverly Johnson of Buffalo was the first black woman on the cover of Vogue magazine. Speaking of magazines, Eva Knowles was featured in Ebony magazine in 1971, not as an author, but for breaking the color barrier in nursing. The 1936 news headline spoke volumes. Negro nurse admitted for training in Buffalo Hospital.
I applied on a dare, and the hospital was Buffalo City Hospital, which today is ECMC.
The struggle has been quite a journey for blacks, but many have made a mark in Buffalo, breaking down walls of segregation where they were qualified but not allowed to work. Buffalo's first black bus drivers were mostly college graduates. They did the job to prove that race had no relevance to the job.
Go to school, finish school, look for other jobs to do, and if you qualified for something, do it.
A lesson for us all. Well, thanks for that advice, Mrs. Knowles. Next, we're going to go inside some locally owned black businesses that are sure to get your taste buds burning as our Juneteenth special continues on Channel 2.
Food is good all the time.
Oh, my favorite part is buying the jewelry, and I like to eat.
Do you ever find yourself looking for some really good soul food? Well, we found some places in the Maston district in the city of Buffalo. Take a look. You're looking at what many African Americans call soul food.
First of all, I like to think of it as hard food because we cook from our heart.
The term soul food came from the cuisine developed by African slaves, mainly from the South. Popular dishes include grits and fresh collard greens cooked with smoked turkey or pork for flavor.
We have collard greens, we have cabbage, we have all dry beans, black-eyed beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, lima beans. We have fried chicken.
Maddie of Maddie's Restaurant on Fillmore Avenue says these are the foods she was raised on. Her newly remodeled restaurant with a private dining area is a big hit with customers from all walks of life, especially the breakfast. Fish and grits served together, the hot seller.
Grits should be served with butter, salt, and pepper. That's soul.
You can't do a story on soul food without sampling some of the food. So I'm trying the cheese grits, and photographer Norm Fisher, well, he's trying collard greens. What you think?
Good. It got to be done like with charcoal, you know. The gas grill, they don't taste right.
At Lee's Barbecue in Buffalo, ribs cut and cooked just right has kept business steady for 30 years. Ribs cooked slowly on charcoal, and a secret sauce has people licking their fingers.
80% of the ribs is a good sauce.
After a hearty breakfast and dinner, sweet treats are deserved. For 43 years, Albert Young has been decorating cakes. It was a hobby. The retired steelworker then took his cake business from the house to North Buffalo. Albert Young and Sons cakes are big at weddings.
Our specialty of sweet potato pie, bread pudding.
Al Young is leaving a mark. It's local Black history in action in the oven, on the grill, and in the kitchen. Well, aren't you hungry now? The food certainly is delicious. Stay tuned as our Juneteenth special continues on Channel 2.
It's a part of their heritage, and that's their history, and they should always keep it alive.
That's what local kids are doing, keeping the past alive through music and dance. Plus,
all of a sudden I run across this young picture, this young guy, and then I looked at the name, Bill Traylor.
A history book leads to an amazing lesson in a Buffalo school.
When it comes to hands-on learning, the kids at the African American Cultural Center are experts. Channel 2's Mary Friona now shows us how they make history come alive here.
It may look like any other dance recital, but this is much more. It's living history, the past brought to life through music and dance.
It's extremely important because it's a part of their heritage, and that's their history, and they should always keep it alive.
And that's just what these kids do. It's the African American Cultural Center's third annual Children's Spring Dance Recital. They work hard all year rehearsing for this very moment.
Them learning African history, African drums, learning their roots and their history, where things come from, and displaying it through dance and music.
From African play dances and celebration dances to incredible drum presentations, the music and dance leaves these kids, some as young as 3, more enriched and better prepared for the future.
Everything, the people, how they respect you, and how you have to work hard to get things, and how you just have fun.
And with the beat of a drum, perhaps all of us can learn a lesson.
With all the things going on today, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going.
Or as these kids say, live it, learn it, and love it. Mary Friona, Channel 2 News, Buffalo.
Nobody brags about being related to a horse thief, but imagine discovering that you're descended by marriage from a gifted artist. Well, then you have bragging rights. And Channel 2's Robin Young reports there's a Buffalo connection to one of our nation's most celebrated folk artists.
These are images from another time, deep in America's South. They were created by folk artist Bill Traylor. born into slavery in Alabama, spent most of his life working on a plantation. Traylor is now one of our most valued 20th century artists. He died at age 93 back in 1947.
Jam, okay? J for jam, okay?
Skip ahead to 2002. Georgetta Traylor, teacher assistant at Buffalo Stanton Academy. She knew there was an artist on her late husband's side of the family, but she never knew how important Bill Traylor was. Then, by chance, a teacher gave her a book about black history.
And all of a sudden, I run across this young picture, this young guy, and then I looked at the name, Bill Traylor. I said, oh no, this couldn't be Bill Traylor that we know, our being Bill Traylor.
It was. Georgetta read on. Bill Traylor, born on a plantation, never able to read or write, ended up living on the streets of Montgomery, Alabama late in life. At the age of 83, he began to draw.
He drew on like cardboard. You know, they probably didn't have the paper. Any kind of cardboard that he can find, and he had a little nib of a pencil.
His work, now revered for its simplicity, was admired through the years by some collectors, but never brought to the national stage until the 1980s, when it was displayed in Washington, D.C. Traylor never knew fame or wealth from his art.
I was wondering in my mind, did he know he was that gifted when he was living?
It's a part of Georgetta's family past and our nation's that lives on through Bill Traylor's curbside sketches. Robin Young, Channel 2 News, Buffalo.
What a beautiful story. Juneteenth is also a part of American history because as long as one person's a slave, none of us is free. And so we need to tell the story to remember all those who fought for the freedom of all of us.
So appreciate the freedom that we now have and appreciate those who are preserving history for all of us. Join us this weekend at Juneteenth here at MLK Park. I'm Claudine Ewing.
And I'm Rich Kelman. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at Juneteenth.